The Latino Torah Center presents the Chavurah Online, a community of like-minded individuals who are learning about Judaism and exploring topics related to Jewish living and coming from a crypto-Jewish background.
Hi, welcome to another edition of the Chavurah Online. It's brought to you by the Latino Torah Center. I'm still here. I haven't disappeared. It's just that we've been having the high holidays as well as this. Today is my anniversary with my wife for 10 years of being married. So I would like to read you something. We're also going to play the drash or sermon by Rabbi Bejarano Gutierrez regarding Rosh Hashanah. I think it's important for people to be aware of the overall philosophical perspective that both me and my mentor have. And what I'm reading to you is something that I find very critical to moving forward as a Latino Torah Center and the community that we're trying to get going among Anusim, descendants of conversos, or crypto Jews. So this is in line with what we've been studying from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and I think it affects all of us. Anybody who's tried to participate in the Jewish community in any way, this will resonate with them. Teaching religion to American Jews. This is Abraham Joshua Heschel speaking. I grew up in an awareness that Jews are running away from Judaism and religion. This was true in Poland, where I was born, in Germany, where I studied, and in America, where I found refuge in 1940. In those years, special problems were considered irrelevant. In those years, spiritual problems were considered irrelevant. But during the last 7 or 8 years, I've been surprised by an extraordinary change. People are not running away anymore, but on the contrary, they indicate concern for spiritual orientation. This is therefore a great hour in Jewish history, and one that probably occurs only once in 200 years. In this hour, we, the living, are the people of Israel. The task begun by the patriarchs and prophets and continued by their descendants are now entrusted to us. We're either the last Jews or those who will hand over the entire past to generations to come. We will either forfeit or enrich the legacy of ages. The depressing aspect of the situation is that we have thus far not succeeded in meeting the longing for our people for spiritual nourishment. The younger generation, which often seemed way ahead of us, is dissatisfied with what we are offering. We are using stereotypes in our interpretation of Judaism. Most of our lives we continue to be slaves to our first experiences with it. In consequence, the spirit of Judaism is often kept a well-guarded secret. We're often more concerned with sociology than we are with religion. Whenever two Jews get together and a third joins them, the question usually discussed is, what are we, a nation, a people, or a religious group? As though the only important question concerning Judaism and Jewish life were the sociological category to which it belongs. The significance of Judaism does not lie in being conducive to mere survival of a particular people, but rather it is being a source of spiritual wealth, a source of meaning relevant to all peoples. Sociology, as a result, is not competent to bring off the full significance of Jewish thought and life. It can be at best explain the origin of certain phenomena, why are the way they are, not their meaning and value. Our concern ought therefore to be less about technique and more about content. Judaism is not merely a matter of external forms, it's also a matter of inner living. Is Judaism still aware of inner living? We have a synagogue, certainly, but we have very little prayer. There are important institutions, but no crucial commitments. Many facts, but no appreciation. Indeed, the impulse to polarize has drained Judaism of a sense of complexity, the subtlety, the reality of its teaching, and mitzvot. What remains is a lifeless devotion to external actions, to a pattern of religious behavioralism that rests on a conviction of utter irrelevance of theology and belief. One of the most popular courses in Jewish educational curricula is customs and ceremonies. It is true that customs and ceremonies have aesthetic value, But since when has aesthetics been the supreme authority in human life? What we actually have in Judaism is not customs and ceremonies, but mitzvot. We cannot express the name of God in words, but we can express it in deeds. Let us teach mitzvot, therefore, instead of customs and ceremonies. Our task, then, must be to teach Judaism as a subject of the deepest personal significance. One of the supreme things we need to worry about is what a Jew stands for in terms of the ideas, as well as in terms of inner experience. Judaism is an answer to man's ultimate questions, and unless we understand those questions, we cannot even recognize the answers. In a sense, adult education ought to be a quest for forgotten questions, an endeavor to relate our tradition to those questions. Our effort must be to interpret Judaism in terms of human existence, as well as in terms of Jewish situation. It is important that each of us concern himself about the group, but it's equally important that we concern ourselves about what we are as individuals, as human beings. We must ask ourselves, what am I? A mass of protoplasm, a complicated robot, a tool-making animal? What is the meaning of my individual existence? Am I anything more than just a physical being? What does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be responsible for 3,000 years of living experience? How can we mediate between all the past and all the future? I should like to suggest the goal of adult Jewish education that every Jew become a representative of the Jewish spirit, that every Jew become aware that Judaism can be an answer to the ultimate problems of human existence, and not merely a way of handling observances. A philosophy of adult Jewish education ought to formulate what insights to set forth from and about our tradition. It should also show how to adjust and express these insights so they may become part of the Jewish personality. The Hebrew term for education means not only to train, but also to dedicate, to consecrate. And to consecrate the adult must be our goal. Difficult as it may be, we must enable him to participate and share in their spiritual experience of Jewish living, to explain to him what it means to live as a likeness of God, what is involved in being a Jew. Duties of the heart, not only external performance. The ability to experience the suffering of others. Compassion and acts of kindness. Sanctification of time, not the mere observance of customs and ceremonies. The joy of discipline, not the pleasures of conceit. Sacrifice, not casual celebrations. Contrition rather than national pride. The key word is Talmud Torah, study. What we glorify is not knowledge, erudition, but study and the dedication to learning. According to Rabbah, when a man is led in for judgment, he's asked, did you fix time for learning? Man is not asked how much he knows or how much he learns. The unique attitude of a Jew is not the love of knowledge, but the love of studying. A learned rabbi in Poland, the story goes, was dismissed by his community because no light was seen in his house after midnight, a sign that he was not studying enough. It's not the book, it is the dedication that counts. The study is an act analogous to worship. In our quest for forgotten questions, what should we study in our adult education programs? First, the Bible must become the central core of all studies. Second, we need to devote ourselves to an intense word-by-word study of the prayer book. And the third, we should attempt to recapture an appreciation of the religious spirit of Eastern European Jewry. And there's more to that. It goes into the Bible, rabbinic literature, and the prayer book. And we can discuss that in future episodes. But most of all, I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year in Jewish terms. Even though it's the 7th month of the Jewish calendar, we're going to be looking more into the subjects that we discussed. Jewish theology should be our foundation, and then we're going to move on from there. And I really hope that people can participate in the live class. We're going to start the live class again in a couple of weeks, and I hope that everybody can participate, everybody can engage and learn. And like this says, studying is a very important aspect of building a Jewish identity and developing a sense of community, because we're studying together. That's why it's called a Chavurah. So now we're going to go to the audio of Rosh Hashanah message from Rabbi Bejarano Gutierrez, who I support, and I hope that you guys can enjoy the same Jewish philosophy that we both encountered in college and that we want to share with our students, and that is one of seeing the uniqueness of Judaism and how it can make an impact in your life. Thank you.
One congregation can have a tremendous impact in the world. I really believe that. And one individual within one congregation can be the mechanism that Hashem uses to open up the gates of repentance and the gates of prayer. So regardless of whether you know Hebrew or not, whatever your language is, the sincerity of one word that you look at in the Siddur, I think is sufficient to open Hashem's heart to our repentance. So I wanted to share just some very basic thoughts on Rosh Hashanah. Michael Wushagrad was the professor of Judaism at the University of Houston for many years. And Professor Wushagrad said that for Greek civilization, truth and values were expressed and conveyed through philosophical discussions. So if you think back to your college class, your high school philosophy, you can think about Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and the great philosophical discussions that they would have. Well, in contrast, the people of Israel, the ancient Israelites, did not engage in philosophy. The story was the basic mechanism of how values and truth were conveyed. So that's why when we look at the Tanakh is full of stories. Stories of individuals, stories of people, stories of a nation. So what is the basic story of Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah, according to rabbinic lore, is called Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the birthday of the world. It's also considered, depending on which sources you look at, as the anniversary of the creation of man. So that's one aspect that is part of rabbinic understanding of Rosh Hashanah. If we look at the ancient Near East, and we look to the peoples that lived in that environment, the Canaanites, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, etc., and we look at the way that they understood the world, it actually sheds a tremendous amount of light on how the people of Israel, the Jewish people, and how we are differentiated in the Bible. The Canaanites had a creation story, in many ways very similar to the creation story of the book of Genesis. There are some significant differences, but they have a creation story. They also had something called the Theology, which was the story of the origins of their gods. Because in contrast to Hashem, to the God of the Bible, the God of Israel, the Canaanites and other Near Eastern peoples believed that their gods had an origin, and they had to explain that. They were born, they lived, they procreated, they fought, they were married. All the things that we associate with human behavior, the Canaanite gods did, and in some cases, if they fought, they would actually die. Of course, the Bible doesn't know anything about that. Hashem has always existed. He is the source of all life, and there is no need to explain that from the biblical perspective. Now, what we look at and what we find when we look at the stories of the Canaanites is something very, very fascinating as far as I'm concerned. The creation stories of the Canaanites see man as something ancillary, something that is not even really an important aspect of the creation story. The gods are warring, they have these great epic battles, and man is created as an afterthought. Human beings are created because the gods say, we really don't want to plant, we don't want to do all these laborious type things. They go to their head god and they say, hey, can you do us a favor? Can you create some slaves for us to take care of all the work and defeat us? And so the god Marduk says, sure. So he creates man as slaves. Now, what is it that we find in the Torah? We find a very different picture. Hashem creates the universe, he creates the earth, and on the sixth day, he creates man as the pinnacle of creation. He not only does that, he provides for the welfare of man. He puts Adam in the Garden of Eden, and he provides for him all the fruit trees that are there for his consumption. God provides for him. His sole concern is for the well-being of Adam and then Chava. And what is amazing is that when Adam and Chava sin, when they partake of the forbidden fruit, what is the description, or what is it that the book of Genesis tells us? It says that Hashem walked into the garden, and he doesn't find Adam, and what does he do? And I think that these are some of the most powerful words in the Tanakh, in the entire Bible. He says, where are you? He calls out to Adam. This is not the God of the Canaanites who cares nothing about his creation. This is the God of the Bible who desires and looks for Adam. It is God in search of man, as the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said. We often think of ourselves as we are looking for God. Man is in search of God. But it is God who is searching for man. And what is it that Hashem says of Abraham in Isaiah and 2nd Chronicle? He talks about Israel, my firstborn, and then he says, and Abraham, my friend. What kind of a God befriends his creation? What kind of a God provides for our needs? And what kind of a God desires to have fellowship and to do everything in his power to come to us so that we will have this engagement with him? That is the God. It is the God of Israel and the God of everyone who calls upon the name of Hashem. And to me, that is the story of Rosh Hashanah. Yes, there are many names to it. Tomorrow we'll talk about Yom Kadim, Yom Zikaron, Yom Kaseh, all kinds of names. But the basic story of Rosh Hashanah is that God is the king of the entire universe, and yet he desires to fellowship with each and every one of us. And that is a powerful story. And that is a powerful message. And I'll just read you the section which from Isaiah, where Hashem says, "But thou, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend, thou whom I have taken hold of from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the uttermost parts thereof, and said to thee, thou art my servant, chosen, I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away. Fear not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I strengthen thee, yea, I help thee, yea, I uphold thee with my victorious right hand." The God of Israel searches for us. The question is whether we will answer. Rosh Hashanah reminds us that there is a king who rules and desires for us to respond. May Hashem illuminate our path, and may we live out the teachings of his righteous Messiah in all that we do. May Hashem give us strength, and may he grant us hatzlacha, success, parnasah, livelihood, bracha, blessing, refuah shalema, complete healing, to all those who are sick with us and to those who are not with us. And Hazak and Baruch, may you be strengthened and may you be blessed.